Welcome to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are on a mission to interview women and the occasional token man about how their passion and purpose have collided to create healthy relationships and profitable businesses. I'm Elizabeth Denham here with Rebecca Monet, and we are co-founders of the Coterie for Women. Rebecca, you've had a big week, so I know you have some good roses and thorns this week.
I had a big week coming cross country in a big old truck and a car hauler, and I'm just grateful that we survived the trip. And like all home buying adventures and moving adventures, it's fraught with challenges, right?
Yeah. Challenges.
Brings out the best and the worst in us.
It does. So I know one particular challenge that I'm guessing is your thorn for
the worst. There's a few things that are pet peeves of mine. One is indecision. I cannot stand people who can't make a decision. It drives me nuts, even though I personally have that problem myself. But it's
probably why you can't stand it.
And secondly, is what I consider incompetence. It's like, especially if you're, supposedly a license this or a license that. So the experience I had this week, which is my thorn, is I went down to do kind of a one last look at the house on the lake because two of my granddaughters hadn't seen it yet. And there was a man walking out of the home. Wasn't a realtor, wasn't a repairman. He was just a guy walking out, and I struck up a conversation with him. And he was basically looking for investment properties, but he was in the house.
How did he get in?
There appears to have been a door open.
Oh.
So naturally, I wasn't real happy that there was a door unlocked and someone in it, unsupervised. And then the listing agent came by, and I mentioned that the door was open. In fact, by that time, I was in the house, and I shouldn't have been. And I just
but it is on the verge of being your house, so there's at least a reason.
I should have closed yesterday.
Yeah.
Anyway, I walk in the house and there's no carpet. Somebody had ripped out all of the carpet in two of the bedrooms and in the living room. And I'm like, what the heck? It looks like a bomb went off. And of course, my first thought is somebody's come in and stole it, because it was good carpet. Somebody's come in and stole the carpet, and nobody can identify this strange man that's been in the house. And the listing agent doesn't seem to be the least concerned that a stranger's in the house unsupervised. So suffice it to say, I've been on a rampage ever since, whining and yelling and screaming at whoever will listen.
That's crazy.
Where's my carpet? Where's my carpet? I bought a house with carpet. Right?
And now you can't close.
And now I can't close because Fannie Mae requires flooring, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're kind of hemming and hawing and working with the appraiser and whatever. But there are certain laws state by state for banking that require the house to be in a certain shape, and it is currently
livable. Livable would be good. Livable, very basic standard.
I'll take that.
Well, are you going to get it all worked out?
We will see. We got people going to bat for me, but all these problems could have been solved with a listing agent who was paying attention, right?
Right. So incompetence. There we have it.
Incompetence.
So what is your rose to go with that? Because that's a pretty big thorn.
It was my birthday.
Yes. Yes.
Hey.
Did you have a good day?
I did.
Other than the carpetless house?
I did. I loaded up my daughter and her three girls, and we met my son and his family for lunch, and then we went antiquing, which I guess is Northwest Arkansas is quite the place for antiquing. So we had a really good day.
Oh, fun. Well, that is a good rose. Family time and your favorite activity, right?
Family.
Did you find anything good for the carpetless house?
Well, not quite. It's,
but it's fun to look anyway, right?
Yes. So how about you? What were your roses and thorns?
Mine are appliances. Both of them. Appliances, which, not very exciting. However, I never thought I would be so excited over a vacuum. My mother had a robot. Do you have one of those robot vacuums?
Roomas or whatever they're called.
Yeah. So she had it and she hated it because she is OCD and it does not make a sustained pattern like you would vacuum yourself, back and forth in a line. It goes randomly all over the place and eventually gets it all.
Right.
So she would get out the remote control and try to steer it. Well, it turns, it rotates. So it's really hard not to overshoot the turn. So you can't get it perfectly straight. Oh. And she's a perfectly straight kind of gal. So it finally drove her. She's like, so then she's following it around the house with a remote control, trying to make it go in straight lines and do the pattern. So finally she said, I can't take it anymore. You can have it. And I would never have bought one, but we have 2 dogs and we have wood floors and tile in part of the house. And my floors have never been so clean. It is so exciting. I walk out every morning and there's no dog hair, none. So I have been riding a high on the, robot vacuum because my mother's OCD wouldn't allow her to keep it, which is so funny. She'd rather vacuum. I know. And then my thorn is the stupid washing machine. The pump has been on its way out for a while and we've known it and it won't drain. And it is now completely kaput so that if I have to do laundry, I have to open the drain at the bottom of the washer, get a plastic garbage bag, let the water drain into the bag, dump it in the sink, put the thing back on. Donald ordered the part. He's handy enough to fix it himself, but the fix-it guy couldn't get the part in within a couple of days. So we ordered it and he's going to replace it. But in the meantime, I either don't do laundry or that plastic bag is also not foolproof. So sometimes it gets water all over the floor. So I'm on laundry pause, which is kind of nice, although the catch-up phase will not be good. So those are my roses and thorns. I had appliance joys and challenges.
I love it. Well, so does Roomba also suck up water in the laundry room? I mean, can we teach it how to not just pick up dog hair?
I don't know, but she said there's a thing you can put on it to make it a mop. I guess it's a damp mop. I don't know. So maybe I could, she can't find that. She's got to find the box and then give that part to me. But if it can mop too.
There you go.
I mean, what could be better than not having to vacuum and mop anymore?
That's better than chocolate almost.
It really is. It's so entertaining. And if it gets clogged up or full, the guy, he calls you. Joseph named him Simon.
Simon.
He says, the roller is tangled. Please untangle it. And then when it runs out of battery, it will say battery low, returning to charger. Then it drives itself back to the charger. Not funny. It's like magic. My floors have really never been this clean because we try to sweep during the week, but we are not daily sweepers or vacuumers. And now it comes on and does its thing and goes back and it's done. So life is good.
How are the dogs responding to Simon?
They could not care less. Isn't that funny? I thought they would be annoyed or at least curious. Yeah. They sack out on the floor and the thing has to bump into them before they get up and move. No. They're getting older and they just can't be bothered for that kind of excitement. But if it's a squirrel or a bird outside, we go nuts. But the vacuum, no response whatsoever. I was a little surprised at that myself.
Oh my gosh, what a great week.
Yeah, mine was clearly not nearly as eventful as yours. If I'm excited over appliances.
Goodness, too funny.
Yeah.
Okay, well, for next week, we'll have to have more roses and thorns, but it's going to be tough to beat this week.
Well, hopefully your rose is going to be that your house is all squared away. Let's cross fingers for that.
Cross fingers.
All right. Well, we will be back next week with more roses and thorns. Stay tuned for a great interview coming up. Welcome back to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. Today we have an extra special guest. Her name is Ruth Agbaji. She is the CEO and nerd in chief, which I love, of Code Wiz and has a passion for helping kids connect with their inner genius. Through an interactive and project-driven approach, Code Wiz offers kids a variety of technology to express their creativity through coding and robotics. Agbaji's love for coding started when she was herself taught to code back in Nigeria. Loving this newly found power, she proceeded to get a master's in computer science from Tufts University and work as a software engineer for tech giants like Microsoft and Kronos. Desiring to make a direct impact on the next generation and having a need for flexibility, in 2017, Agbaji quit her day job to open Code Wiz. Her vision was to have a center where kids of all abilities could come and learn about problem solving through coding and pour their imaginations into personalized projects. With her first center a success and a growing number of franchisees, Agbaji is looking to grow Code Wiz into a household brand name in the enrichment education space. Welcome to the show, Ruth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yay!
How are you? I love, my favorite part is connect with their inner genius. I just think that's such a nice little,
Cool.
that's a great goal. So Rebecca, why don't you start us off and ask Ruth her first question.
Absolutely. I would love to do that. So we were talking the other day, Ruth, a little bit about like a theme in our lives. And I'm wondering if you could talk more about that. Do you have kind of something that's run through your entire life that's been a theme in your life and has allowed you to become who you are and then develop this? So what is your theme and how did that come about?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on this show. It's so amazing to be here. I watch the show all the time. And so now I'm here. I'm like, yes! Yay! Super excited to be here. So I think to answer your question, when I look back over my life and how things have evolved for me, coming from Nigeria to the US, I have always had the firm belief that I can be better than my environment, than the way, so, you know, everybody grows up differently. Everybody has different circumstances that they have to deal with. And I have always believed that regardless of whatever circumstance I find myself in, regardless of whatever environment I find myself in, I can be whoever it is that I want to be. So basically I can, the word is escaping me, where you kind of rise above, like I can rise and be whatever it is that I want to be. So that has been the theme, and that has always been kind of like my Northern Star. I'm always thinking of that. You can be better, Ruth. You can do better.
Yeah, I love the whole idea that the environment doesn't control you. You can rise above it. And then that other belief system that you can do better. You can do better. And if we believe that, we're always stretching, we're always pushing. And no matter, regardless of what the situation is, you are going to rise above it, move beyond it, whatever it is. And that's now also kind of showing up in other areas of your life. But we were joking yesterday about if you write a book, we need to entitle it Regardless, because you have been.
Yes, I absolutely, that was like such a huge aha moment. I'm like, yes, I actually wrote it and put it by my bedside, regardless.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's regardless of any and everything. And I tell this to my kids too, you know, it really doesn't matter what limitations you feel like you have. You can be that person, you can be awesome, and you can be great. And this bleeds into our belief system at Code Wiz too, because a lot of kids come in and they're saying, well, I'm not very good at math, you know, my friend is better at math, maybe coding is not for me. And we're like, it doesn't matter, regardless of that, you can be a coding genius. You have that genius on the inside of you, and we are here to help you pull it out.
That's such an amazing philosophy. And I think that's so empowering for kids, especially. But I want to dig a little bit into what circumstances you felt you had to overcome, because that's clearly driving you in a lot of the things that you do. What was an environmental limitation that you felt like you had to overcome and be something regardless of that?
So I grew up in northern Nigeria, and I don't know if you ladies have heard of Boko Haram, the group that went abducting. So I grew up right in the thick of that. There was always some religious riot going on. There was always, like, Fridays, you don't go out on Fridays because, you know, things could happen. Somebody could, I don't want to say so I don't trigger people, but there's a lot of violence that was happening. And I just felt like, gosh, this can't be life. Why would we always be afraid? Why can't we just be free to go out and be who we want to be? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Parents have PhDs from the UK, and yet sometimes we were hungry. We
Oh
were
yeah.
miles to fetch water. We had no electricity. We studied by candlelight all through college. And I'm like, gosh, and we watch Western TV, right? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
look at that. I want that. I can get myself out of this and I can be that. And then through college as well, my original degree is in electrical engineering. And I love my country. I love Nigeria. It's a beautiful place, but it's a third world country, so it is what it is. Our class sizes were humongous. Some classes where we were taking classes with other students, we could have class sizes of about 1,000 people, and we're sitting on the floor. There are not enough chairs for people, and you have one professor teaching all of that. But then in my undergrad class, there were like 120, I want to say, of us, and you would have 3 pieces of equipment that were working. And when you have 106 boys and 4 girls, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was about that. The boys are like, okay, girls, just stay in the corner. You guys take the readings. We will be over here doing the actual work. We don't want to bother you. And it's just like, gosh, I feel like I don't know anything. I feel like this is just, I can do more. I can be more than this. I can use my brain more. And it was that led me to teach myself how to code. And then even in teaching myself how to code, I ran into many issues. And I do tell this to parents that come to bring their kids to code. It's absolutely normal for your kids to get stuck when they learn how to code. That's why we're there. And so when I was learning how to code, I got stuck and I didn't know what to do. And so I reached out but then I started to think, okay, Ruth, you can do this. Because it doesn't matter, regardless of the fact that there's no one around you to teach you, there's gotta be somebody out there in the universe that can help you. And so I started to Google, then I found this guy in India who I just emailed. I'm like, please help me, please. And he was so gracious. He mentored me for months over email and helped me with my project, and that's how I learned how to code. And I built this huge thing that my college people liked. And then I strongly believe that it was one of the things that really helped me to get a scholarship at Tufts later, because I just refused to give up. I don't know if I mentioned that our internet used to be, now it's better, now it's much better. But when I was there, I would have to stay up till like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., because that's when the internet works.
Oh.
Then even when it works, if you're downloading stuff, it's probably like maybe 50 kilobytes per second.
Ooh.
So you're sitting there, you're just like, come on, come on, come on. And then it'll disconnect and then you have to start all over. It was just, you can do this.
Oh, wow. Well, and that's probably why you're such a determined person, because even the simplest things were an obstacle. So you had to learn to just plow through it regardless.
Exactly. Like, I will not take no for an answer, whether it's my internet or when I apply for scholarships. I'm like, I will not take no for an answer. I need this and I will get this regardless.
Regardless. Who knew that was such a big word for you?
It's a big word. It's more than just even a word. It's an attitude that you have that allows you to overcome whatever obstacles, rise above, stay optimistic, because at the end of that, there's going to be a positive result. Didn't matter where you were born, where you were raised, what was going on politically, what was going on in the schools in terms of equipment. You were going someplace. The analogy I like to use when I see someone as determined as you is, it's like an oak tree, right? You were an acorn, and it really didn't matter where you were planted. You were going to turn into a mighty oak tree. You were going to get through those boulders and whatever was in the way, and you were going to become a mighty oak.
That is so great. Okay, now I'm thinking, should my buzzword be regardless or the mighty oak?
You have two books. You have two books in you.
Okay. But you're good at writing bylines, so it could be regardless, the mighty oak, seek sunshine or something.
From acorn to oak.
There you go.
The story of regardless.
Story of Ruth.
That's amazing. So translating all of this to what you're doing now in a still male-dominated field, how do you apply these things, and what do you tell young girls? And I know you have a daughter and a son, but I think there's so many. You had so many obstacles, and I think that sometimes people who've grown up in the States don't have that similar perspective. I remember my daughter went to high school with a kid, and I can't think of where he was from, but it was a place of unrest. And she said, "What made you come here?" And he just looked at her with this blank face and said, "Civil War." Like, what are you talking about? But we were thinking, why would you come to Daphne, Alabama, of all places? But his thought was, I was getting out of Civil War. I didn't care where I was going.
It's better than Civil War.
Right? It was a profound moment for her, because you realize just how sheltered you have it when you're not fleeing Civil War. So those lessons have to be something that carry through to your business and to your children and to the kids who come to Code Wiz. So what do you think that has helped you to impart to younger kids?
So I think it's for my kids, for kids at Code Wiz, sometimes I do try to be careful about the stories that I tell, so I don't traumatize them. Because to be honest, a lot of the stories I do try to keep them, I try to make, I don't tell it as it actually happened, because I do think that it could be traumatizing. And it was in coming here that I realized that we grew up in a very traumatic environment. We just didn't know it. For us, it was just life, and you
right.
just. But for my daughter, my son is a little young; he doesn't quite get it. But for her, I always tell her, not to take anything for granted. The fact that your phone doesn't work because the internet just got disconnected because somebody accidentally unplugged the internet. 2 minutes. For it to come back on. And, sharing those stories with her of the things that we lacked and we wanted, things that my husband always says, oh man, my husband is also from Nigeria. And he always says, oh man, I wonder what I would have been if I grew up in this country. That's referring to himself. And so he's always like pushing the kids to read more, study more, because when he was growing up, he didn't have all those resources. He didn't have the textbooks. So we provide them with a lot, and we encourage them to do these things, to try these things, because not everyone has that opportunity. And when you have that opportunity, you need to take advantage of it. And for the Code Wiz kids, I do try to, at least in more broad general terms, is, take advantage of the opportunity that you have. Yes, maybe, because sometimes we do have kids who have been forced into the programs, like their parents feel like it's really good for you, you need to go whether you like it or not. And it's just take advantage of it. Just try it, right? Just try. You never know what door this can open for you. You never know what could happen in the future because you learn how to code. So just try it. And then again, going back to, a lot of kids want to do this, but don't have the opportunity, and your parents are doing this for you. Just try it. Just give it an opportunity and see. Maybe you might just like it. Maybe you might just love it. I give my staff the traumatic stories. So they're like, oh, okay, Ruth, let's make this business work. I'm like, yes. I don't know if that answered that question. I know I went off on a tangent a little bit.
But I think it's such a neat thing. And when you have someone like you you're so open about your history and where you come from and where you're going and all those things. And I remember one of my children was friends with a boy whose family was from Egypt. And he hid it. He did not want, I think he was afraid. And I said, you know what, you should be proud of that. And you could do so many things, have, being bilingual and having that worldly experience. And you could be a diplomat or a translator, you could do all, but so many people had not treated him that way, that he was taught to hide and fear and feel, those sorts of things. So I think people like you, when you speak out and you have, despite all that, regardless, you have that pride still, and you talk about loving your country and the beauty of it and all of those things. So I think the complexity of life, it's nice when you can openly discuss that there are flaws, a good and bad of everything.
Right.
I have to be honest that I initially, when I started the business, I tried to hide the fact that I was Nigerian.
Did you?
Yes, I have to be honest. And I did that because I was, when you tell someone you're Nigerian, the next thing is like, oh, are you a Nigerian prince? Do you know any of the people that scam? And I was like, gosh, I'm starting a business. I'm collecting people's money, credit cards. I don't want anyone to feel like, oh crap, she's Nigerian. Maybe she's going to be scamming me, or maybe taking my information for, to sell somewhere. And so, yeah, I hid that. I remember somebody was doing a press release and she was like, oh, she's a Nigerian immigrant. And I specifically asked her to please remove the Nigerian immigrant piece of it. But then it was, as we were going, as I was interacting with people, then people say, oh, there's an accent. Where are you from? I'm like, great, now I have and then I would tell the story and everybody would be like, whoa, that's amazing. And then I started to see people wanted to support me and help me achieve my dreams because they could understand where I was coming from. And that's when I started to understand the power of my story. Like, it's not so much, yes, there's negatives to it, but when you open up yourself and let people see what your dreams are, what limitations you've overcome, so far, people just want to help. Like, I feel like people are just innately good, and most people, and they want to help. Like, people just want to help. So yeah, that was a journey for me, being able to talk openly about, where I'm coming from, the struggles that we had back home, and so on.
Yeah, I'm so glad you put that into perspective, because a lot of times they're just beliefs. We believe people are going to reject us or judge us or not appreciate us because of whatever, this other thing. And they're usually just beliefs. It's not 100% accurate. So by being your authentic self and bringing all of you to the table, not only do we get to fully appreciate that, but we can help you get where you go. I was born and raised in Switzerland. And came here when I was about 14 years old. And of course, there's stereotypes of no matter where you are. But I can tell you a stereotype that I know of America, and that is we are always for the underdog. We root for the underdog. And so there's this desire from Americans to want to take someone that appears initially to be an outsider. In your case, you got 4 and 5 different markers of being a minority, right? And you're an immigrant. And I truly can see that the American spirit is one of entrepreneurship, but it's also one of taking someone and doing what they can to support you. So I'm so grateful that you were able to be completely authentic and people came from around you. And you're doing the same for others right now, right? And that to me is so cool. So good for you. So talk to us a little bit about kind of the mix of boys and girls at Code Wiz and what you're doing to kind of empower those little girls to consider coding and how you keep that all balanced.
So it is a challenge. I'll be honest. Before I started Code Wiz, I always thought, this has to be easy. It's gotta be that people are not putting enough effort into getting more girls into STEM. It's gotta be easy. And, I started, I'm like, ooh, this is not as easy as I thought. But you know what? Regardless, we tried. We tried. So one of the things we did from the beginning was we had an all-girl team at the very beginning. It's not that way now, but that's how we started out. And all the moms, especially the moms in technology, they went nuts for it. Oh my gosh, there's this group of girls who are teaching kids how to code. This is amazing. I gotta bring my daughter over. I gotta show her that women can do it too. We would have some moms even bringing their sons so that their sons could see that women can also code. So that's when I started to realize that little things like that matter. Having a person that a young lady can look up to and say, hey, that's somebody like me that's doing this. I can do this too. And granted, not all young girls are like this, but I find like a good majority of them just really want that role model, that person that they can look up to and say, hey, look at that person just like me doing this. I can do it too. So what we try to do, we try to have a very good balance of boy coaches and girl coaches, so that if we do have kids who come in and there are the kids that really want to have like a mentor type figure, a big sister type figure, we have somebody that they can work with. And then I also try to put myself out there and say, hey, look at me. I own this business. I did this. I was a software engineer at Microsoft. Maybe not the best, but I was a software engineer at Microsoft. And if you can do it, if I can do it, you can do it too. And a lot of times I think just little things like that really, really help. And then the way we've also structured our program is such that it's not super, super competitive. It doesn't reward kids based on how much they've done and how fast they've done it. So for example, there are some programs that will reward you. If you complete these 3 courses, you move to the next level. If you complete these 4 courses, you move to the next level. And what I found just in the very beginning is that the kids, a lot of them really just had this awesome ideas that they just wanted to work on. I want to make this website where I can sell, my artwork. We've had somebody which is why passion is so important for me to tell the kids. It's not about math. It's about learning how to code so that you can incorporate that into your passion. So you're super passionate about art. Okay, let's make a website where you can sell your artwork, right? And so they're so excited about it. And they don't necessarily want to complete that course just for the sake of completing it. They want to complete that project. That is what is motivating them. That is what is giving them drive. And so we decided to flip it a little bit where we are rewarding kids on completion of their projects. So this is a project you said you want to do. We didn't tell you to do it. You came to us and said, this is what you want to do. Great. If you get this done, we will give you a certain amount of WizBucks. And that really keeps the kids motivated and going. And then it becomes a less competitive environment. When 2 kids could be at the table, I'm working on one project, well, if I was the kid, and then the other kid is working on a completely different project. So there's no like, oh my gosh, she's way ahead of me and I am way behind. Oh, I suck. Oh, I stink. I'm no good at this. And there's none of that. It's, oh, that's your project. Oh, that's super cool. Look at mine. Oh, that's really cool. And that way it's really about encouraging the kids to be creative, encouraging them to put their best selves into the project, put their creativity into the project, and not so much, I'm gonna race through this so that I can become this yellow belter or green belter or some other measure that some of these other programs use. So that's how we have done it. And we found that it has really worked well with our young ladies because they like that. It's just a whole lot less pressure. I would say we do have some programs that are competitions. Like the robotics, it is a competition, but then that's optional. That's if you want to do it, right? You can go in and do it. But our core courses are structured in a way that it's not super. You're only competing against yourself.
Right. I love that, and I think I have children who are in the gifted programs often come up against pushback on doing things for the sake of doing them. I had a son like that, and if he didn't see the point, you could not convince him that it is worth the grade, you know. But if he had the things that I love about your philosophy is that you're giving them a tangible result that is something that they have decided they want to do, but also you've given them complete ownership of it. And I think those two things play into creativity so much, because giving a specific assignment doesn't always play into somebody's strengths or creativity or gift. But by giving them those two things, you've empowered them to have the drive and motivation to complete it. So I think that's just such a great twist on something that doesn't work for so many kids. You know, traditional curriculum often is a barrier to some kids for either ones who struggle or ones who are gifted or whatever, wherever you fall. But having that self-motivation because they truly want to get it done, you know, I think is so exciting for kids to really do it.
Yeah, I agree. And largely because that's also the way I learned how to code, was project driven, was this is my goal. And I'm going to learn everything I need to achieve that goal. And seeing how empowering that was for me, that's also one of the reasons why I brought it in, and seeing it work so well now has just been like just awesome.
My son would have loved this. He's one of those kids who got on there and taught himself how to code and taught himself how to do all those things. And if we had had something like that here, I'd have been the first one in line.
You know, and kids are creative by their very nature. So this gives them an opportunity to create, have fun, learn a skill, all in an environment that's conducive to doing so without feeling like, oh, I'm falling behind, or my project isn't as cool as that person's, or I'm not going as fast. It brings this fun, creative environment for all that are participating in this coding projects. All right, so let's shift gears just a little bit. And this is kind of a curveball to you, Ruth.
Get ready.
Talk about your future. You're out 5 years, 10 years from now. What does your future look like personally, and maybe also with Code Wiz?
It is bright. My
I love it.
There's a song I really, really like by Demi Lovato, Sorry Not Sorry. And every time something awesome happens to me, I go sing and dance to that song, because I'm like, to all the people who said you can't do this, to all the people who were like, no, you can never achieve this, I am sorry, but not sorry. There's a verse about how the future is in technicolor. It's bright and colorful. So yeah, so I truly believe that the future is bright for me personally and for Code Wiz. My big, hairy, audacious goal that somebody actually told me is not big, hairy, and audacious enough is to have 1,000 Code Wiz franchisees, or units rather, in the next 10 years. And the person was like, why don't you make it 5? I'm like, yeah, let's start with 10. Okay, we can always adjust. So that is my big goal. I truly, honestly want to be, you know, when people think about math tutoring or math enrichment, they're talking about, you know, Mathnasium, Kumon, Tutor Doctor. I want to be that. Or when you think about Happy Meals, they're thinking about McDonald's, right? Oh, I want to go to McDonald's, even though maybe they mean a Wendy's or somewhere like that. I want to be that household name where it's like, oh, have you gone to Code Wiz? Have you sent your kids to Code Wiz? You know, your kid looks like they might thrive at Code Wiz. I want to be that kind of brand where people just know us, and they know us for good. You know, I never want our organization to be just a money minting organization. I really want it to be that we are making an impact.
Yeah.
I can't believe I haven't told you ladies this already, because I always tell everybody this. The next Steve Jobs, whether that's a young lady or a young man, is coming from Code Wiz. There's gonna be someone from Code Wiz that's gonna invent something amazing, and it's gonna be so great. And I'm gonna take a picture with every kid so that's the case, exactly. And
I knew him well.
I have my 0.0001% now.
I love that. That is such a great goal, though. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where we're going. And Code Wiz is like my third child. I really don't see myself leaving Code Wiz anytime soon. We might grow, we might take on partners, but I really want to see this through and see where we can take it to.
Excellent.
Well, and I think you're hitting it. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. This is
Go ahead.
For one of my franchisees. He says, Ruth, you need to brand yourself as the Oprah of coding. You get coding, everybody gets coding.
It's Ruth's favorite thing, right?
Oh, this is fabulous.
That's awesome. And I'm excited too, because I think that the timing is so good for something like this. I think I mentioned yesterday when we spoke that my daughter took a coding class just because she recognized the need to know it. She's, just graduated from college. And so it's a necessary thing. I think the further we go in technology and the more accessible it all becomes, you've got to know. I mean, I'm behind that. So I'm a ding dong when it comes to coding, but I hope that all my kids understand the importance of that. Yeah. I could come into class with your children.
Yeah. So I hate to do this, ladies, but I think we're at our time. And I want to make sure, Ruth, that folks know how to get hold of you to learn more about you and also to learn about Code Wiz. So what's the best way for folks to get hold of you, Ruth?
Well, right now I am all over the place. I can't be found. LinkedIn is a really good way to reach out to me. My email is ruth@thecodewiz.com. I'm always happy to talk to people, email back and forth. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I haven't quite cracked Twitter yet, but at least the other three, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, or email is one of the best ways to reach out to me.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your passion and for sharing your heart and for sharing your vision. We really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Love it. Thank you so much, Ruth.
What do you think is the #1 challenge for franchisors? You got it, getting the right fit franchisee. And as you know, poor fit franchisees are often poor performers. Poor fit franchisees cost more to train and support. Poor fit franchisees are rarely satisfied or compliant, which can lead to validation issues. Not a good place to be. But now there is a solution. Zoracle Profile's scientific spot-on match program. Working with top broker groups in franchising, Zoracle has created a platform that scientifically matches the broker's candidate to the right fit franchise brand. Spot On Match predicts the compatibility, performance, and viability of a prospective franchisee. Spot On Match gives the franchise development team a data-driven and scientific approach to selling franchises. This is how it works. Zoracle works with each franchisor to establish their top performer blueprint. This research assesses current franchisees to determine the key psychographic indicators that separate high performers from mid to low performing franchisees. The final result of the research is the brand's Eclipse report, which compares prospective franchisees to a franchise system's high performers. Finally, brokers are running a spot-on profile on each of their franchise prospects. These profiles are then scientifically bumped up against the franchisor's high performer algorithms, and the match process begins. Dashboards are built for the franchisor and the broker to make sure the process is smooth and trackable. Right fit matches instantly. Find out how you can be a spot-on match member. Save time. Stop guessing. Start matching. Call Zoracle Profiles.
All right, welcome to Women in the Know, where we discuss everything from politics and policy to relationships and marketing. We take the experiences we have had in our own lives, in our businesses, and in the interviews of people that we meet and share them with you so that we can all learn a little something and become more women in the know. So today's topic is about representation. We interviewed Ruth Agbaji, and she talked about representation as a woman of color, as a woman in STEM, as a woman franchisor, as an immigrant woman. She's got a lot of markers that identify her in several different minority groups, especially within the STEM world. So what was your biggest takeaway? I think it's such an interesting attitude that she has had about first being worried about sharing her history and her story, and now being very open about it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty amazing that her original feeling of worry and concern she had as a Nigerian woman, and then you add all these other things, right? She's an immigrant. She had some concerns that she would be perceived in a negative light. She used very harsh words. She was worried they would think she was a scammer because of the Nigerian prince.
Uh-huh.
Going on there. And she had this worry and this concern about it. And so she held back part of her personality and part of her story, which is a brilliant story of how she overcame and she got educated and she came to the US and she started Code Wiz. But she was holding back this powerful story of living in Nigeria during a very difficult time because of her concern what others would think. And then when she opened up and she started to share, she realized that was her own perception. Others didn't have that perception of her. And she was embraced warmly and encouraged and mentored and really got a different kind of experience than anything that she had anticipated. I thought it was a brilliant way that she articulated it, that sometimes it's our own stuff, our own head, and sometimes it's real. I mean, we do get judged and, put in buckets and stereotyped, but in her case, it was her own head. And when she overcame that, she got a whole different kind of reception.
It is an interesting thing. And I think most people who fall into marginalized groups or potentially marginalized have that fear factor. And we all do, whatever it is. I have things that I worry about being judged by. You, I'm sure, do too. But when you have something that has been stigmatized in society, it's a bigger, more real fear. But what I loved, one of my favorite things that she said was that she thinks most people are innately good. And I think during a time that we're living in where everything is in flux and everything is a stress and there's so much opposition, you forget that people are innately good and that the bad is learned and the hate is learned. But on the inside, most people come from a good place. And if you can keep that at the forefront of your mind and realize that your story has power, and for young girls coming up, a woman of color, a Nigerian woman, a woman in STEM, a woman business leader, franchisor, that is so much more powerful than any kind of stereotype. And if someone has something negative to say about that, making it their problem and not hers, and I think that takes an evolution of confidence and of success and of positivity. But I love that she still believes that most people are innately good.
Isn't that wonderful?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a powerful lesson that she taught us. And to have that kind of almost rose-colored glasses on instead that says, is it possible the world isn't as bad as what the media says, or as bad as what I, read online? Is it possible that people are going to be there for me and they're going to have my back and they're going to be kind and they really do want to help? If we just had that filter on, what possibilities might be there versus, having glasses on that are, cloudy and saying, oh, everything's bad and I got to do it myself. And so it was just a powerful lesson that she learned and now is sharing with us and sharing, of course, with those that she is working through. And I'm so grateful because, like you said, her story is incredible. I
Mhm.
can't imagine her going on without sharing it. I mean, because this regardless attitude that she has, this overcomer attitude that no matter the environment, no matter her skin color, no matter how or where she was educated or where she came from, she knew she was up for something bigger and better. And she teaches that same thing to her kids at Code Wiz, that regardless of your situation, you can do it. You can overcome. You can be better than where you are right now. And it's a beautiful story and a beautiful message.
It really is. And I actually want to ask her more questions. Like,
I
she
know,
has to
because
surround herself with people who support her vision and her mission and her story, because otherwise it would be hard to be an island. I think when you're telling a story, especially one that is filled with potential obstacles or struggles or racism or whatever it is that she's facing, being an immigrant, all those things, when you're surrounded by people and trust to love you and support you and take care of you, it is even when it does hurt, or you do have a negative impact in your life, it's less painful and easier to overcome when you have that tribe. So I'm kind of interested to know more about who she has surrounded herself with as well, because nobody can do it alone. I think that's when you succumb to the negative.
and that's why we love the coterie, right?
Exactly.
Because we build those tribes, and we got to make sure Ruth comes and joins our tribe if she's not already participating in the coterie, because you're so right. We need a tribe around us that believes in us, even when we don't believe in ourselves, that validates us in such a way that says, I got your back. I see where you're going. I believe in your vision or whatever. It's so nice to have that tribe. So it is interesting. She has created it. She didn't articulate exactly who these people were, but many people have come around her. And all I know is I want to be part of her tribe.
Me too. And I want her a part of ours.
Me too.
Yeah.
Come to our party, we'll go to your party.
Exactly. She's been a fun person to meet. I really enjoyed her so much.
Me too. I'm looking forward to learning more. Wow, we learned so much through these conversations. We are officially Women in the Know. And then next week we'll come back with some more Women in the Know information. So stay tuned for next week.
The Franchise Woman is a bi-monthly digital magazine that empowers women as they navigate the franchising industry by providing relevant news, tools, advice, and inspiration. We are a resource for women who are seeking to own their own businesses, improve their existing businesses, find creative solutions, and take advantage of franchise opportunities. We feature women in the business who best exemplify our ideals and have something to teach our readers. In addition to our exclusive articles relating to the female entrepreneur, we also feature brands that are geared for women. Women have become the fastest growing sector in business ownership and have become a powerful, influenceable force fueling the economy. The Franchise Woman will give you the news that is relevant to you to help you navigate the path of successful franchise ownership. By women, for women, and about women. We are the Franchise Woman. Join us today at www.thefranchisewoman.com.
Welcome to Ask Beck and Liz, where no topic is off limit. We want to answer your questions about business, life, and everything in between. If you have a question for us, send your questions to ask@beckandliz.com. That's ask@beckandliz.com. So, Elizabeth, our question today stems from our conversation with Ruth Agbaji. Is that how I pronounce it?
Agbaji.
Agbaji. Thank you. You're much better at that.
I practice.
You practice. That's the key. With Code Wiz. And she was describing this philosophy of more of a create and learn environment rather than a compete environment around coding. And I thought it was kind of fascinating, honestly, that her belief and her philosophy is if she created an environment where a child could work by project and create something, he or she would learn better than if she created a tiered approach. When you did, we're all going to do this, and when get to there, we get, you know, a white belt or a pink belt or a black belt or whatever it is, some kind of tiered approach to winning or you know, getting to a certain level. She doesn't do that. She believes in this idea of give a child a project, let him or her decide what that project is, and reward them instead for the completion of the project. So she believes this removing competition stimulates greater creativity and curiosity and learning than if we created a more competitive environment. So that's a whole lot of yada yada to say, what do you think?
Well, I think it's such an interesting concept. And I come from a very competitive family. The girls are probably, I would say the three girls and my siblings are more competitive than the boys. And then in my own children, I have one who would thrive so much in her system and another one who's all about give me the points. So I think it depends on the child, but I think being driven to completion on a project that you're invested in gives you a more altruistic reason to succeed in a situation like this. Because Jake is very, very, very intellectual, but he is not going to do it for the grade or because someone told him to. He's going to do it for the genuine love of learning. Mm-hmm. Luke, on the other hand, when he was in 5th grade, they had these AR reading points to try to get them to read more. And I was on the point committee. So the prize committee, we would take a wagon and go to every classroom and give them their little stacked points. And in the 5th grade, if you reached, I don't know what it was, 500 points, you got to go roller skating. They would get a bus and send all the kids thing. So Luke read to 500 points, probably halfway through the school year, and never read another book the whole year because he got his prize. He was on the bus. He wanted to get on the bus and go to the roller skating rink, and he was done. So it wasn't because he loved to read. It was because he wanted the reward.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's very individualized for what motivates what kind of kids. I mean, what do you think?
I tend to agree with you. I'm OCD, as you know, and I'm one of those people that once an idea is in my head, I won't stop until it's gone. So I probably would work really well in this environment that Ruth has, which is, you know, this desire to finish the project and learn while I'm doing it because I've pictured it in my head. So I think it would be a wonderful environment for me, but then I have this competitive side. I also want to know, am I learning faster than someone else? Am I getting there, you know, more efficiently, more effectively than someone else? So I have both sides of me. So maybe it's just a mood. Maybe it's, you know, who's in my class that would make me do that. But I do know that kind of creative, tie it to my own values, my own what I want, will likely have me step up more than it's simply a scorecard or I'm going faster or doing better than, you know, person B or person, you know, C. I think for me it would really, really work. But I also know, like you said, with your kids, that it would work for one and not work for another.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And, you know, as a ballet teacher, that's a creative endeavor. However, it is also cutthroat competition. You get the stage moms in there and there's only one prima ballerina and everybody wants, or one solo, you know. And I remember when I was young, I was competitive. If the girl next to me was doing 3 pirouettes, a triple, I was going to do 4. And I was not going to, always took a class that was too hard because I was not going to be the worst one in the class. And by the end of that year, I would be up on the front row, confident with everybody else. And these girls, when I was teaching, one girl could just pirouette to no end. She just did triples without even to think about it. And everybody else thought, oh, look at her go, good for her. And they didn't think they could do it. They just like, well, that's beyond me. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with you? Kick her butt. Kick Grace's butt. You don't just say good, clap for Grace. Yay, Grace, you do such beautiful triples. So I think a little competition is healthy in that way. You can push each other. Like we were never ugly. When I had 2 or 3 that I remember that I competed with, and but it was not a spoken thing. We just all pushed each other to that next level.
Yeah.
So I have mixed feelings about it a little bit too, because I could go in either direction, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think it's what differentiates what Ruth is doing at Code Wiz. So she's going to attract just the right children that thrive in that creative, values-based kind of environment where they get to see something in their head come to fruition through coding, right? So it is definitely a differentiation point. It's a value proposition that she has, and it's a certain type of people. And me coming from a profiling background, I oftentimes think, especially since we're in the software business, that those that are kind of strong in that area, right, are probably not as competitive. They are creative. They're visionaries. They're innovators. They're those kinds of individuals. So it really is beautiful grounds for growing the potential of a future coder, right? By creating that kind of an environment. So I think I'm just fascinated with what she's doing. I'm fascinated with her optimism and her vision. So it was just a wonderful interview. I so enjoyed, spending our time with her today.
I did too. And I love the fact that no matter which way you thrive, I think everybody thrives when you're personally invested. And that's what she does with the projects. Yeah. So, I don't think she can fail with that.
I agree.
And there you have it.
There you have it. Absolutely. So thanks everyone for joining us today, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. This is Beck and Liz signing off and wishing you another purpose-filled and profitable week.